because we measured progress in profits, not in people. We let our city so bright we could no longer see the stars or each other. And somewhere between the meeting crisis and the climate summits, we forget to ask the simplest question. And dare I ask, will we forget it this time around? What happens to the heart when the earth stops breathing right? It's not about melting ice, it's about mothers melting down because the harvest failed again. It's about boys dropping out of school to dig for gold, girls trading classrooms for kitchens because the water ran out. For those who are still looking for proof, this is not science fiction. Science and friction, and we are the generation born into both the storm and the solution. But you see, it's not just doom and gloom. I mean, we scroll through chaos, double tap despair, but maybe Hope's algorithm just needed a refresh. Does Hope algorithm need a refresh? I want to hear your response. Does it need a refresh? Youth of the 14th UNESCO Youth Forum, does Hope need a refresh? If it does, let me hear it loud. Does Hope need a refresh? Yes, I agree. Hope needs a refresh. They call us the Wi-Fi generation. Well, because yes, wireless fidelity. We stay connected even when the world disconnects. We dream in pixels, we act as people, laugh through the leaks, meme the madness, and still show up with buckets when the floods hit home. From Accra to Samarkand, small cities to big islands, we are rewriting the forecast. We are the wind after the wildfire, we are still the calm after the climate. Because quite frankly, our world is warming up, but so are our hearts. We're heating up with vision, innovation, and with that stubborn conviction that when young people speak with courage, the future listens. So 3 claps to the doers, to the defenders, to the drivers, and to the dreamers. Because we are proof that our future is still negotiable and that hope is not an endemic endangered species under the IUCN Red List. We are proof that we are shaping our future. We are changing the narrative. And when the history books ask who wrote the ending, scratch that. Who wrote the new beginning? Let that answer be simple, be clear, be loud and bold. That we did that. Can I hear that? We did that? We did that. Because Earth isn't angry. All she wants is a text back with action. Are we just going to subscribe or just put out the hashtags? We're going to text her back with action. My name is Adigal Alvin Wenia. It has been my pleasure to share with you the voice of our generation.
Beautiful, beautiful. Like I said, I love that so, so much. It always resonates. Please keep the reactions going. I'm loving it. Keep the reactions going. So you see, based on the framework that we've spoken about today, we can see from Alvin's presentation at the 14th UNESCO Youth Forum, we saw the structure of how he communicated clearly. He sets the context. He spoke about the problem. He gave insight into the problem, how it affects us from Accra down to Samarkand, how, it's a collective issue that, affects us in one way or the other, however, differently. But fundamentally, at the core, it is still the same issue around climate. And then he offered, a solution to the house, and he gave a wonderful and resounding call to action. So yes, have that as a framework. Next time you're finding yourselves on that podium, next time you find yourself in that room, in that presentation. Always have the two videos from today at the back of your mind. You can also go, our pages will be shared. You can also go on Alvin's LinkedIn or Instagram or mine, and this will be available. At the back of this session, yes, the links to the videos will be shared, so you can have that. So just to reiterate, Alvin spoke clearly, he spoke with purpose. You should too, wherever you find yourselves, our wonderful, wonderful change makers. So as we conclude today's session, I would like us to remember this important message that climate leaders must be able to, one, think clearly, you must be able to communicate effectively and influence strategically. Your voice is a tool. And what does that mean? It means that the way you communicate can either inspire action, it can build trust, it can attract opportunities, and it can create impact far beyond your wildest dreams. So never underestimate the power of clear communication. Many climate solutions are failed today because people do not understand them properly, not because they were not timely or they were not necessary, but because there was no understanding. That is the power of effective communication. So I would like to admonish you all today to continue developing your voice, continue developing your structure, develop your confidence and your ability to connect with people. It will take you far, far above your wildest dreams in your climate journey. Your clarity is your advantage. Make use of that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for that, Paul. It was a truly great presentation and quite nostalgic for me. I actually didn't expect this, so it's quite humbling as well. And just as Paul said, communication is one of the most important tools you would need to explore as a climate leader in order to get the message where it needs to get to for action to take place. Joining us in a moment is our second speaker. As we said, this session is focusing on storytelling, also on strategic communication and branding, because as climate leaders, you need to know how to share the message and how to better position yourself as well. For your questions, you can share them in the Q&A chat. At the appropriate time, we will invite all the speakers and facilitators to respond to them. And the ones that don't get responses on this call, we will share with the facilitators and revert back with a written resource for you. With a resounding applause, help me welcome our second facilitator for the day in the person of Mr. Michael Kelvin Ajube. He is a brand strategist, designer, content curator, and overall multimedia specialist. Kelvin, if you can hear me, you can see me. Over to you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
All right, sure. So I'm excited to be here today to learn with us and also to share the knowledge that I have. I hope by the time we are out of this call, we will be living with better insights and new ways of us telling our stories as advocates for climate change or even beyond just climate, being we do into other areas of our life. So yeah, I really want us to be very engaging. I hope we could allow people to speak so that we have an interactive session, but I think there's some restrictions. So, but I'll still manage to go along with it. So yeah, so I'll be speaking on branding and strategic communication for climate action. So, war at the end of every action or any campaign or any message I will put out there, what we want at the end of anything is for an action to be taken. So let's say, for example, we say that the second use plastic, one, yeah, so for example, we talk about plastic, right? And we use the plastic over and over again. We encourage stuff like that, right? Second use. But in our locality, mostly in West Africa, where I am, we have rubber bags, which is discarded right immediately, right? And when that happens, we realize that the place becomes filthy, and all the effects of that, which we all know, is what we now face, right? So at the end of any campaign that talks about plastic waste and stuff like that, we want that people should find better ways of handling plastic, or if not using it at all. So at the end of every communication, we need an action to take place. But unfortunately, we do not see that happening on the space. And we just becomes like talk for some people, but the people at the grassroots and the people that are supposed to be taking this action do not really hear it, or they do not really relate to it. So that becomes the problem that is being faced by the world of, I mean, climate actors or advocates. So the importance of effective branding and communication. Effective branding and strategic communication are very important in influencing public perception. So we need this to influence people's perception. Let them see the world through our lens. Let them understand the problems that we are seeing and we are trying to communicate to them. So engaging diverse audiences. So you do not want to just communicate to maybe the policymakers. You also want to bring it down a bit to the locals. They can also take part in one way or the other. So when you are crafting your message or crafting your communication, you want it to be diverse, to be able to reach different groups of people, and also drive action, which I've spoken on. So if it's a policy that is going to happen in the country or happen in the state, that is what we want to happen. So by translating complex scientific data into compelling narratives, communicators can mobilize individuals and organizations towards climate solutions and effectively address misinformation. So now, this is what I was saying, that I wish that we could open the mic for people to speak, but we can do this on our own. I'm sure there has been an ad or a campaign that has resonated with you, that you're like, yeah, this is really, really deep. Or what we just listened to from Alvin, the speech was very entertaining, but at the same time, very educative. So stuff like that has stayed with us. And it goes just beyond what is being spoken, right? It's also how the message is being passed. So let's use Alvin's speech, for example. Anyone could have said what he said, right? But not everyone could have animated it the way he did, engaging the audience, making a memorable speech that when people even leave, years later, they still resonate with it and they still hear. Mind you, not everyone that you will always approach or always meet at events or at places like this that are really passionate or really care about climate action or care about the environment. Most often than not, most of the time, you're going to meet people who are just very casual about it and then they are indifferent. So you want to be able to now communicate to them effectively in a way that they will see that there is a problem. They will see that they also have a role to play. And then you're not just speaking to people who are like you, but you're also recruiting people to also be carers or also be passionate about the environment. So I'm going to play a video for us to watch. It's an ad or a campaign about plastic waste. So let's enjoy.
Strange
So this, am I audible though?
Yes, you are. We can hear you loud and clear.
Sure. So the ad we just watched is obviously about plastic waste, right? But it just didn't, I mean, the creators of that campaign didn't just say, single-use plastic is bad. No, they created a different world where it now becomes that plastic waste has taken over the earth to the point that we are now eating plastic waste. So you see the metaphor there. So that is in itself becomes strategic communication, right? That in itself also becomes storytelling. So you see that there's a message that is clear, that is known, that we have heard several times. But as an advocate or someone who is very passionate about this, how are you telling this story in a way that people would remember, and not just remember, but for them to also take action? So as we proceed in this my presentation, I'm going to be referring back to the video. So right now, climate work alone is not just enough, right? So most of us may be involved in planting trees, may be involved in advocacy or public speaking or going to events and talking about all this, right? But that in itself alone is not going to cause change to the problem that we are facing. People are still going to be reckless and act as they want, right? Because even though we are trying to get into the policymakers, if the people who are the majority, I mean, who are not so passionate about what we are passionate about, are not seeing the effect, are not being like, are not relating to whatever the problem is, then we are still going to go back and come back and have the same problem, and we are just going to remain in the talking rooms forever. We are just going to remain in the conferences, in the calls, and just talking. But the work, we do the little work, and then they are doing the major damage. So climate communication is more than just awareness, right? It involves educating. So you are educating people of the effect, educating people of the problem, and then you are mobilizing. Mobilizing in this sense means that you are putting people together, and then you are getting the work done, right? So not just yourself or people who are so passionate about it, but you're also getting more people to join you. And influencing, so influencing policymakers, influencing fans, right? Influencing fans, influencing young people and all stakeholders. So strategic communication in its sense builds credibility and action. So if you're able to hack how to pass a message to people, you are going to be trusted, right? You are also going to get the work done. And public engagement is essential to climate solutions. So that's what I was saying. I've been saying that aside just the policymakers or the big rooms that everyone do not get the opportunity to go in, the market woman, the regular person who doesn't know anything about this, they might have heard, but they do not know to the extent to which the human race has caused harm to the earth. So they are just casual about it. So you want to also be able to get into those people. So strategic communication. These are the things that you're supposed to be looking at. Who are you speaking to? Are you speaking to a teenager? Are you speaking to a local farmer? Are you speaking to somebody who is very educated? Are you speaking to a teacher? That is one question that you should ask yourself whenever you are trying to pass an information or trying to educate someone on something. What do you want them to feel or to do? What do you want them to feel or to do? So in this sense, do you want them to take an action? Do you want them to feel regret for probably some action that they had taken in the past, or sometimes that they have done in the past? Do you want them to see the world in a different light? Do you want them to understand the problem, to bring the problem to the house? I mean, make it very localized. And why should they care? Those are the things you're also looking at. And how should the message reach them? In this sense, we are looking at, are you going to do through social media? Are you going to use their local, I mean, in Ghana, we have local information centers, maybe a big megaphone that's when you put the information there, everybody in the community gets to hear that message. Or are you going to do it on the radio? Are you going to use newspaper? Are you going to use social media or TV? So those are the things that you are supposed to be looking at when it comes to communicating the problem. So communication is not just posting online, right? So yeah, you have done the work, right? Let's say you are the type who is the social media person, like Alvin, and you've done the work, you've gone to this meeting, you've had this conversation, you've been called so and so place, you've been on this stage, and then you post it on social media. Okay, everybody gives you the likes, everybody say yo 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 yo, but what did you go and do there? What was the problem that made you go to that stage? What change do you want to see in the world? People do not know about those things. Though you are getting engagement on your post, you have done so, your idea has been able to cause so and so percentage of this and that, but the problem still persists and people just give you the like. So you want to be able to as much as possible, any information or any communication that is relating to this area should be able to shape at least one person's perception, right? Even if you're not getting 50 people, if just one person is able to see the world differently, is able to understand these problems differently, then you have won in that area. So this is an example of some posters that I saw online that just we're just looking at it and just reading it, you're able to feel something, right? So I'll focus just on the last poster here. So you see, obviously the person looks like someone from a poor background or maybe probably suffering, and there is a drawing on their leg with slippers. So obviously they did not have the means to afford slippers, and what is written there is little needs. So with just this poster, first off, you get to know that, okay, this is a poor person, and then whatever this campaign is for is to get this person slippers. When it comes to the other image, you see a child trying to draw something like a board, and they've written ABC. So they do not have access to education. So these are like different ways in which you can communicate a message to people. And so, yeah, this is also another poster that talks about carbon dioxide in Nigeria, stuff like that. So we're just looking at it, you know that, okay, this is what it's talking about. And then 81% of Nigerian erosional forest cover is now permanently destroyed. So the image, without even looking at it too much, you are able to see that, okay, the world is, I mean, our country is spoiling and things are going on, like, are not really cool, right? And you can see from the image that I don't know what those things at the top are called, the refinery stuff, bringing the smoke and whatever, is being connected to the trees. So those stuff are replacing our trees. So this is a very emotional type of graphic that is able to communicate the message for us, right? But the problem is we are unable to do that. So that's why we are here today. And then there is another one, let them feed on food, not toxins. Straight up, we are telling us that the plastic is getting into our oceans and the fishes are feeding on fish. So these are just like examples of campaigns or posters that I saw online that are very, I mean, they speak about the issue, but they're not using a lot of numbers. They're not using a lot of text. They're just going straight to the issue. This one I love the best because it's very deep. So when you see an image like this, people wrote, we are either talking about a death sentence or somebody trying to kill themselves. So in essence, we are trying to say that plastic is as clean ourselves as human beings, right? We talk about pollution, we are cleaning ourselves. The water wastage, we are cleaning ourselves. So this metaphor is things that we are supposed to be looking at. So not just putting it in text or putting it in graphics or putting it in analytics and numbers and stuff. Let's try to be creative the way we communicate our message to people. And in that way, you are reaching more audience. You are getting your message to resonate with a lot more people. So very similar to what the previous speaker talked about. So I'm just going to rush this part. So the climate storytelling framework. So for me, I feel like climate climate storytelling is not just sharing information, which I have said over and over again. It's translating this climate realities into human experiences people can emotionally connect with. So when you look at this poster, for example, people can easily resonate with it, right? And it just brings the conversation from the high levels down to the grassroots. So yeah. So people may forget statistics, but they remember people, they remember emotions, and then they remember experiences, especially. So you can put the numbers there that 98% of the ozone layer is depleted. Okay, the next moment the person has forgotten. But if you show how this depletion is affecting real people, if you show how this depletion is breaking homes, is destroying homes, making people unable to eat well, depriving young people from school and stuff like that, then you're now bringing it into their emotions, right? And if you can find it, if it's something that has an experience that people can even insert themselves into, then you have even one bigger, right? So first off, you have to start with a human. So people connect to people before they can connect to the issues. So instead of saying rising sea levels are affecting coastal regions, we can say that a fisherman in Adam is a place in Ghana, can no longer predict the tides that once sustained his livelihood. So right now you have brought it home. You have made it very local. You are not using big languages that people cannot understand, right? And so the key insight from this is that human first storytelling creates emotional entry points. So when you base your story on a human being, when you place it on, I mean, it could happen to you. When people understand it could happen to me, then they try to take it a little bit more serious, right? If they are far away from it. Honestly, if the typhoons or whatever, the floods that happen outside of Africa, right, it's happening, I just watch, right, because I know that possibility of stuff like that happening in where I live is very, very low or almost impossible. So I do not have to worry. But if I was staying closer to those areas, I would be worrying. I would be trying to, find a place to put, to relocate to until whatever the floods or the earthquake or whatever disaster it is over. So this is what this is trying to tell us, that you make your communication very local. You make it feel very personal, so that people can also feel like, yeah, I can relate to this, right? And then the next one is to show the real impact. So explain how climate issues affect livelihoods, health, safety, education, and yeah. So your story becomes more powerful when people can see themselves in them. That's what I said in the previous points. So make it visual. Aside just writing in text, aside just showing us numbers, a strong climate communication helps audience imagine the situation. So use stuff like maybe the sensory description. So maybe instead of you smelling fresh air, you're going to be inhaling smoke or fumes from the exhaust of cars, right? When people think about that, when you're in the street and then the fumes from people's cars get into your nose, it's not pleasant at all. So when people start thinking about stuff like that, right, then you are trying to get the message home. You're bringing it home. Documentary visuals, you do before, after comparison. So you could, maybe if it's a river, you could say that this is how this river looked like 50 years ago, and this is how it looks like now due to illegal mining, right? That is an issue that we're having in Ghana. And people are able to understand it. People are able to say, oh, this is really, really crazy, right? And then instead of abstract language, you just create a mental picture for them so people can actually understand the situation better. So connect local to global. This is help audience understand that this is not happening somewhere else, right? So you could, even recently in Ghana, the sun or the weather has been so hot, people are complaining every day. So you see that because of our cutting down of trees and stuff like that, there is so much heat, right? Flooding is changing transportation. Because of flooding, people cannot even go to vacation locations, right? Because that whole area is flooded, and because of our own actions, right? Rising food prices linked to climate shift. So people are seeing themselves in these problems, they can relate better. So one thing you also want to understand is that you want to stay away from doom storytelling. You don't want to say that, oh, the world is going to crash the next 5 days if we don't stop doing this and that. You don't want your message to always be scaring people, right? Because nobody wants that. You want to be credible. You want to create credibility. You want to create a lasting personal brand, right? So if your brand is all about, oh, the world is going to die, like so emotional, you're going crazy and all that, you may end up losing more people. So if you create fear without giving them hope, right, you are going to create emotional shutdown. So you are going to get people going to reply to you emotionally. So the type of emotions that you're using to pass on this message, people are also going to respond to you that what you are saying is a blatant lie. You are not doing your research well, you're not doing this, that you're just causing fear. You don't want to. So when stuff like that keeps happening, you are beginning to spoil your brand and beginning to destroy your message. So strong climate stories should be able to balance urgency. So you want people to be able to take the matter serious, but you don't want to make them feel like there is no hope at all. Balance humanity, balance possibility, balance action. So the framework that you want to use is that you create the problem, right? You state the problem. So I'll give a problem. Probably the problem here is that people are cutting down mangroves at the coastal areas of Ghana. I'm sorry if I'm using Ghana so much. That's where I can relate to. But I'm sure this matters is relatable to most people from different parts. Yeah, so I'm using this because I actually made an ad for this particular problem. It was a radio. So the means they used to pass this message was a radio. So it was like a voiceover kind of like acting thing. So I made a script for this. So there was a problem, right? The problem was that people were cutting down the mangroves at the coastal sides of Ghana, right? And it was now having human impact, right? In the sense that when the sea tides rise, the places get flooded. Certain species of fish that were located at the mangroves do not exist anymore. So, and these market people or these fishmongers had built little sheds around this coastal area. So when the flood came in, all their shares, all their fishes that they had in their fridges and everything got lost. And they lost everything, right? People were cutting down the mangroves for firewood. But this problem, the problem that was going to, the effect of this problem was even way bigger than the firewood that they were cutting down the mangroves for. But in that same act, we're able to create hope that if they start planting mangroves again, if they start preventing people from cutting down the mangroves, if they're able to balance between what they are using for firewood and also what should remain, then there is hope for them, right? It may not be immediate, right? So in that particular script that I created, you could see that the market women now took it on themselves to be challenging people who come to like cut down the mangroves for firewood or whatever they're using for, was mainly firewood. And then that becomes the action. So the action was now the women knowing that if we do not protect these mangroves, fishes are going, and when the men go for fishing and then they are kept in the fridge or our sheds are going to get destroyed. We won't get money, we will lose money, or our effort is wasted. So this in itself, you are able to talk about the problem and then you're not scaring people, right? You have show them the issue and also show them how to solve this problem. So always end with possibility. So what can be done? People need to know how they can take actions into their own hands. A very classic example is telling people to use their own water bottles when they go out instead of using disposable plastic cups, right? And so in this way, people know that, okay, if I have my own plastic and my own bottle, I'm not going to be causing weight. If I have my own spoon when I go to a local restaurant, I'm not going to be using a plastic spoon because I have my own spoon. I could easily clean it and put it back in my bag, right? So now you're putting people involved. So the goal is not only awareness. The goal is not just to tell people that this and that, so many talk, it gets boring, right? The goal is to mobilize people. So not just mobilizing people to go and plant trees somewhere, not just mobilizing people to go and clean a beach, not just mobilizing people to go to the market and be clearing their gutters and clearing whatever, but in their own homes, in the comfort of their homes, in their workplaces, they become advocates, even though they are not taking the matter as seriously as you and I present in this call are taking it. So the 5-part climate story model, again, referring back to that, to what I've said already, is that who is affected by this issue? What is the change we want to happen, right? Or, I mean, sorry, what climate issue is happening? So what is the problem we are currently facing? And then what does it matter to the community or to the people that are being affected? And what do you want people to take out from that information? Do you want them to just feel empathy? Do you want them to take responsibility? Do you want them to have hope for the future? And what should be their next action? So if it's something they're going to donate, if it's something they're going to open their space, if it's something they are supposed to join the action, maybe you are planning to plant trees, they're going to move and come and join the tree planting activity. So those are the things we are supposed to be looking at whenever we are putting a message. So that message is not just one-sided. Everything becomes equal, and we are not just wasting our time or wasting our energies. So the previous speaker also gave something similar, also has something similar. So weak climate communication. So flooding displaced 20,000 people. Okay, move on to the next story. Maybe I saw this on TikTok. Flooding displaced 20,000 people. Then maybe I'll just see a man come and talk about how the flood has destroyed his house. Talks, move on. I just scroll. I mean, if I'm not really passionate about climate issues, I just scroll and move on to maybe people dancing. And then I'll watch that one. I'll take action. I'll like, I'll comment. But most often than not, when climate action post or people who are passionate about these issues post on social media, there is less engagement because people do not care about that particular issue. So now, how we can make this flooding displaced 20,000 people message better? So after years of repeated flooding, a mother in northern Ghana now keeps her children awake during heavy rain because she fears the water entering their home at night. So why this is a better story is that it's human-centered, right? We have given character. There is a mother, there are children. And it is emotional because they're staying up awake. They are not sleeping. They are afraid that the flood is probably going to wash their little shed or their little house or their little mud house away, right? And or the water is going to enter their house and then probably are going to drown, right? It is very specific, right? That it is heavy rains, which is causing the fear. It is visual because people are now like imagining it as they say, and then they're able to put themselves in the shoes of this mother. They're able to put themselves in the shoes of the children, right? And it's memorable. It's straight to the point. It's memorable. It's something that anybody can just move on. So, flood displaced 20,000 people, correct? But what is the effect of this flood? How is it affecting people? What is you understand? So, we want to make our stories clearer. You want to make it as simple as possible. Because in essence, people do not really care. That is it. People do not really care. So that's where simplifying complex information comes in. So you want to avoid using jargons. You don't want to use words that somebody who is not in the climate space or is not very educated will not understand. Like talk about carbon emissions, or there's a particular word I'm looking for. Anyways, so you want to use relatable language, something that people want to break it as simple as possible. So connect climate issues to everyday life, right? Connect it to everyday life. So let's say probably if we continue pouring waste in this gutter, the gutter is going to get choked. When it rains, there's going to be flooding, and this flood is going to affect this and that, going to stop people from going to work, but the road is blocked and all that. People are in their homes. There is no productivity. Work is delayed. No school, no food, stuff like that. Right? You want to use visuals and analogies. You want to make people think about it. So, for example, we have carbon emissions. Which, instead of saying carbon emissions, you could say pollution trapping heat in our atmosphere. We can even make this even simpler. I don't want to go into that. So instead of saying food insecurity, the market woman does not understand what is food insecurity. The conductor of your bus or the bus driver or the gate man does not understand what is food insecurity. So you say families are struggling to afford daily meals, which is the truth. People are actually struggling to afford their daily meals, and we can relate it to the climate change and stuff like that, right? So instead of saying food insecurity, you say families are struggling, and in that way you are able to tell your message, right? You don't want to always sound intelligent, always sound smart. So if you are smart, why don't you go and preach this message to the fellow smart people? You understand? But they are not even the majority. You want to bring the issue home. Yeah, so these different audiences you could look at. So policymakers, youth audiences, local communities, donors, media, and your online audience. So when you are crafting your message, you want to be able to craft them in a way that you are passing it like you are getting to them, getting to the right people, use the right languages for the right people. I don't want to really go into this. I mean, I think I've seen a lot already. Yeah. So I'll just move from this. So yeah, personal branding and credibility. Your personal brand is not just a logo. Yeah, most of us, when we first talk about personal brand, oh, I need a logo, I need a brand, I need brand colors, I need this, I need that. It goes just beyond your logo. So after your logo, what next? Who are you? So we talk about your reputation. What are you known for? Your identity and your emotional association to people, and then how they attach this to your work. So a strong climate advocacy brand, right, helps people to trust you, that you know the work that you are doing, you know what you are talking about. You want them to remember you. You are doing this, you are doing that. So when they see this, when they see this issue, or when they hear about a particular issue, they quickly think about you. You want them to understand your values, right? You want to understand what you stand for and then connect with your mission. I want to be able to reduce the plastic waste in Accra by 50%, right? Your mission is clear. Everybody understand this is your mission. And then you are making content, you are posting on social media, things that are, the work that you are doing, and they're talking about the problem. So your mission is clear on social media. So you don't want to be the person that today I'm talking about waste in the beaches. Tomorrow I'm talking about oil in the river or in the ocean. Tomorrow I'm talking about people cutting down the trees. I mean, these are all connected issues, but the moment you start doing that, you are unable to keep people for a long period of time. So make your mission clear, this and that. You could actually branch to those areas, but find where you feel like you are more passionate about, and then make that your driving. If you're able to move that and able to get the audience, get the attention of people, then you'll be able to now move to other areas and even move to a bigger audience beyond what you have. And then you can even use it as a way to even get your funding, right? Because it is clear what you are talking about. So personal branding, credibility, your personal brand development. So post on social media and stuff like that, who you are, how you speak. I mean, all the points from the previous point in public speaking. So I want to say that aside standing on stages, standing in conferences, giving speeches like Alvin and the likes, I want you to understand that public speaking, thankfully, to social media doesn't end on stages or big platforms. Your social media platform could be your public speaking stage, right? Simple as setting a camera to yourself and just talking to it. You are doing public speaking. I understand that not everybody has the good public speaking skills. That is where practice comes in, right? Go to YouTube, watch a lot of speakers, right? Watch them speak, listen to how they move, listen to how they engage the audience, right? And then you're able to now articulate that way. Not everybody, that's how I said that everybody can have the same story or the same message, word for word, but not everybody will be able to pass that message to get people to be feeling an emotion, to get people to take action, just because you're not a great public speaking. So it's important to take time to learn public speaking. Public speaking is a very difficult thing to learn, but the moment you're able to get it, then you're able to move beyond where you are just standing. You're able to impact people more. And understand that, again, public speaking is not just on the big stages. Social media has given us opportunities to have our own stages. So let your social media platform be your public speaking space. Let people hear your message, let people hear your story. So the framework here basically is to be passionate, be genuinely passionate and interested in what you are talking about, the message you want to pass out, and let people see it from your own perspective, right? Aside just reading what is found on online, apart from just reading what people are talking in the news or talking on social media, people also want to hear how you think, right? In that way, you're able to get to more people. You're being able to get to funders because they understand that, okay, if I give you this amount of money, you think this way. I know how you think. So if I give you this amount of money to run a project on so, and so, you'll be able to execute because I have seen how you think and it is in the right direction. So let your perspective always, or as much as possible, also come in. Let us know what you think. Don't just come and dump figures on us, dump problems on us. Let us also know how you think and then be consistent with it. Something that I'm personally struggling with. Consistency. I mean, you can start well, and when you are not always consistent, people will start losing trust in you. So you want to gain their trust by remaining consistent with your message. And consistency, I want to say, is not just about the amount of work or posting every day, right? You want to be consistent in your quality, right? You want to be consistent in the quality of the message that you are passing. So even though you are posting once a week, what is the quality of that message that I'm posting once a week, right? So not just posting every day, 2 times a day, every day. No, you want to be consistent in the quality, you want to be consistent in the prompts or whatever you are using, right? You want to be able to be in people's mind all the time. So look at those things. So I think this is my final session. So define your core issue, right? So what climate issue do I deeply care about? So this is for all of us present here. We want to understand the issue that we care about. Is it climate education? Am I a fashion person and I want to talk about sustainable fashion? So you find your area. So this is like guiding us to be able to find areas that we can speak about. So circular economy, food systems, climate justice, renewable energy, waste management, human mobilization, and climate storytelling. So you want to find a niche, or not necessarily a niche. I do not really advise. I mean, personally, I don't think about a niche. I don't have a niche, right? But you want to find an area that you are very strong at, an area that you care more about, right? So define your core issue. Define your positioning. So position is what you want to become known for. I want people to associate my name with maybe accessible climate education, visual storytelling, in terms of climate and the environment and sustainability. So you want to know what people want to find, where people want to know you for, like understand where people should know you for. So define your brand value. So develop a consistent voice, right? So let's say, for example, you start posting on social media. You want to get a way that people will receive your message. So is it educational? This, and this is happening, and this, and this is happening. This is what you have to do, and this is what we are going to get at the end of everything. You want to be bold. You want to be shouting at people on the screen. I mean, it could be your way of passing your message, right? But again, you do not want to be causing fear. Remember, you don't want to be causing fear. So is it documentary focused? You want to get into people talking, you want to films and stuff like that? Is it research driven? Is it hopeful? Is it policy oriented? So you want to find the type of voice that you're using to tell your stories. And when you understand that, people are going to know you and know you better. So yeah, so build visibility intentionally. So you want to document your work consistently, like Alvin does sometimes, and share your field experiences. You've gone here, share it. Let's see what we are doing. Post insight and reflections. Give us information. Let us hear your point of view. Speak publicly. Turn on, like I said, turn on your phone camera and speak. Share your information. Share your knowledge. Share your insights. Let us hear how you think, you understand. And then when you get the opportunity to even be on the bigger stage, you're able to reach more people, and then your credibility even raises. So not all of us here, not all 84 people or how many people are on this call are, you know, big or have spoken at big stages. But if you're able to start from somewhere, you're able to get to those big stages and even get to the big funding that everybody wants, right? So collaborate with communities, collaborate with groups, collaborate with NGOs, and as you are doing these things, let it be public. Let people see that you are doing this and you are doing that. So participate in conversations online and create educational content. Just find a creative way to pass your information. And then when they see it and then people are now going to understand that this is what you stand for. So in summary, right, when you talk about your values, so who you are as a climate change advocate, or I'm transparent, I talk the truth, I'm passionate about this, people understand your values, and then you add your voice and people keep seeing you. I mean, you are being seen and people see you all the time, you are consistent, and then they know that they can trust you, you are credible. Then in that way you have gotten your brand. That becomes your brand. So it's now up to you to now start putting yourself out there on social media. I mean, you have the brand already, but if you don't put it on social media, the brand is just the brand, right? It's just like having a logo and not doing any work. It is just there. So when it is aligned, people begin to recognize your work. They trust how you communicate. They recommend you to people. Oh, I know this guy was working on so and so. Many of us can relate to that, right? We recommended or we have recommended someone, and you it becomes possible for you to get invited to collaboration. I'm working on this. Can you join us on this? Because they have seen that you are doing this. So maybe an organization or somewhere that you are looking forward to meeting, they would rather even see your work and go like, oh, we see that you work on this. Can we collaborate on this project? Right. And then this is able to connect you to opportunities. I cannot really talk much about that because we understand the benefits of all this. And then the final one, I think previous speaker also talked about this, so I'll just move. Yeah, so that brings me to the end. I wish we could, I mean, this is just like a quick like summary of everything, right? But in our own free time, let us go in and understand these issues. Let us learn how to create videos. Let us learn how to, if it's little graphics, if it's improving the public speaking in our own time, let us go in and get better in this area. So that, because if you do the work and people, or you see the problem, do the research, people, nobody sees it, then becomes the problem still exists. So it's in our hands right now. So thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much for that, Kelvin. Truly an enlightening presentation. And just as Paul did earlier, you took us through the journey of strategic communication, personal branding, and how to tell the climate narrative the way it is. To an extent, I felt ambushed today. It looks like I was a case study in today's presentations. But yes, it just goes to show that strategic communication, branding does help in amplifying conversations around climate change and the opportunities available for us as young people. I'm going over the comments live on the stream, and they are really good. Compliments going on to facilitators for sharing insightful discussions and enlightening us more on communication strategies. We have a few questions coming in. I would, in a minute, go and share with our facilitators, but this is your chance to also share in the chat the Q&As, questions you may have specifically, and you can point out a speaker you would want to address this question. But if you are as excited as I am for this knowledge being shared, let me see more reactions, let me see more comments, let's see how excited you are. You also want to mention that the attendance link is in the YouTube description. It would also be shared in the chat so that you can directly fill it out there. Remember, after 24 hours, the link will be rendered inactive. And this would also add into the final evaluation to ensure that you get the Climate Skills for Youth program certificate. So to my first question. So to Paul, how do we balance urgency and hope in climate communication? Paul, would you prefer having all your questions as a lump, or you'd want to take them one at a time?
So let's have all the questions first.
Great. So the first question is, how do we balance urgency and hope in climate communication? The second is, can strategic communication influence systems and policy, or does it mainly shape individual behavior? So those are two questions coming to you. For Kelvin, you also have two questions here. The first is, if narratives shape systems, how can young people intentionally design climate narratives that inspire long-term societal change? Should I take it again?
Yeah.
If narratives shape systems, how can young people intentionally design climate narratives that inspire long-term societal change? And the second is a really long one, so kindly listen. How can youth build visibility and credibility on social media platforms to amplify climate voices and opportunities for influence? And how do they develop confidence in using these platforms to consistently show up and show their perspective? I'll take that again. How can youth build visibility and credibility on social media platforms to amplify climate voices and opportunities for influence? And how do they develop confidence in using these platforms to consistently show up and share their perspective? So there are more questions, but in order to ensure we are timely in our delivery, the remaining questions will be shared with the speakers and shared as a written resource to all of us once we receive their responses. So Paul, would like to hear your responses.
Okay, thank you, Alvin. Thank you, everyone. Uh, can you just give a brief recap of the first question? How do you balance hope? And let me just have that.
Okay, so the first question is, how do we balance the urgency and hope in climate communications?
Okay, thank you, Alvin. So to that, I would say you need to be discerning. Yes, the issues are urgent, but like Kelvin has said during his presentation, if you're always about doom and gloom, that will discourage, people. So however urgent, the climate needs, however urgent the issues are, the element of hope always needs to be there. So have that at the back of your mind to the person who asks this question. Yes, the issue is urgent. Yes, the time is now. But you do not want to discourage others. You don't want to have too much of fear mongering in your messaging. That way, you're going to, scare others away from taking action. Like the analogy that Kelvin gave, when people are scrolling on the timeline on social media, oh, you see this person talking about, oh, climate action, oh, the world will end in so number of days. More times than not, you just scroll past. You look at the content where someone is dancing and it's all, hope, and you like that. So if you want, your message to be passed across, clearly you need people to, interact with your message. You need to find that balance. And how do you find that balance? In the issues, when you see the climate issues, when you see how urgent that is, you also have to ensure that you look at the brighter side of things. That is why, as I said during my presentation, always prefer a solution where you see the problem. So, on one hand, you have the issue, it is urgent, it needs to be attended to. On the other hand, you have to offer hope in form of a solution and a call to action. Thank you. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much for that,
So,
Paul.
do I go ahead and answer the second question?
Yes, you can. Do I repeat the question or you're fine?
Okay. So for the second question, I think that will be, how can strategic communication influence systems and policy? Can strategic communication influence system and policy, or does it mainly shape individual behavior?
Yes.
I would say both. And this leads us back to, context. Context is very, very important. Your messaging has to be specialized for the specific audience whom the message is going to. The message you're sending to the grassroots communities is not the same message that you'll be trying to pass across to development partners. Okay? So at that level, you're trying to influence systems, you're trying to let them know, these are the issues on ground, these are the solutions that we're trying to prefer in our own local communities. The way you communicate in that scenario to a development partner or a partner organization would be very, very different to the way, you communicate to your grassroots community. So yes, strategic communication is very powerful. And yes, it can influence systems. I can tell you for a fact, it can influence policy. One thing I'm very big on advocating for is storytelling in policy spaces. That has to be very, very, important. It needs to be looked at. That is, the way that the policies, the so-called lingo and all the big words and all the numbers, it is storytelling that will help break that down and humanize it. Not just, for those at the top level, but for those at the grassroots. Because real climate justice starts with the grassroots. So yes, as you're building your messaging, of course, for those at the top of systems, those that influence policy and all that, also keep in mind that you also need to build your messaging for individuals. And you need to put that within context. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Paul. Great insights you have shared. So now let's hear from Kelvin, the responses to the questions.
Right. So two very long questions. I was thinking, can I answer these questions well? So I'll try my best. Right. So the first question had to do with designing narratives that would actually cause a change or shift systems. So what you want to understand is that when you are telling your story or sharing a narrative, you do not just want to talk about the problem, right? You want to give people responsibility. So we can say that throwing of waste in the gutters or on the streets is bad. Act now, right? But when you do that, you're not getting the work done. People will just sit and read, right? So you want to give them the responsibility, right? That this is the problem that we are having, right? So you also give them the agency over the doom that we are not going to just die. So you frame the story around who we want to become or who we are becoming. So it's not just about what we are losing or how the problem is affecting us. So we are saying that we are the generation that is building, that is rebuilding the world, right? We are changing the narrative, we are changing the story. So we are not just doomed, but it is up to us to take charge. So give people the responsibility. That is why it is important for you to localize the issue. You want to make it very localized as much as possible. So when you're telling a story, you want to make it come home, right? So in that way, you're able to design you're able to craft a narrative that reaches home. So what's in to me personally, right? I would say instead of, I mean, the policymakers have the bigger say, but even if the policymakers are to bring these new policies, they are to bring these new laws and stuff that is against maybe importing of second-hand clothes from the US or from China or whatever. Even policies are breaking them. People will still find ways to bring these things into the countries or into our places, right? Talk about plastic, people will still find ways to use them. People will still will struggle, right? So when you are taking the problem, you're also creating a solution, right? What's going to be the replacements? So those are the things we are supposed to be thinking about, because people will still find ways, people will still be suffering, because in the end, it is the rich people or the policymakers that will still benefit from any of this. So if they're not benefiting, forget about us that are at the down side, right? And then the second question, which is about building visibility, credibility, and confidence online, right? So with visibility, you want to post in public, you want to share your story in public, share it on social media, and then when it comes for you to commenting on certain information, on certain things, on the narrative that actually shift the system, you are doing that in private, but in public, let us see that this is what is going on, right? Do not just document, do not just announce, you want to also document. So probably I was invited to speak on a national climate action forum or something, and I just posted. I gave a speech on the national da 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 da. Da. I posted. I have announced to everybody that this is what I did, but you didn't tell us that. Okay, we launched this new device that is able to clean the rivers, take the mercury out of the rivers, take the waste or the chemicals that the illegal miners are putting. We launched this. This is what happened. This is what happened. This is the problem. You have not documented. You have not actually told us what you went to that conference or went to that forum to talk to do, right? You just announce to people, so people are not able to relate. We just, like I said, you give you the likes, then you move on to the next post. So another thing you should also understand is that you want to also use a format that is best fit for your narrative. So let's say if something is best fit for writing, maybe probably an article would be the best way for you to pass this message. Let it be an article. Do not force yourself to make a video out of it. If whatever you have to say is best fit for a 30 seconds or 60 seconds video, make that 60 seconds video and post it. Do not put it into writing. Personally, what I see most is a lot of writing. Not everybody has time for writing. Your message could fit for radio. Your message could fit for short video or view yourself. If you are a filmmaker or you have the tools, you can create a short film around it. That is how that message is able to get to people better. So do it that way. So do not force video if writing is a stronger solution for that problem, right? Or stronger way to pass that message. In terms of credibility, so you want to, when you talk about some of your work, you want to be able to link people to be able to go and read bigger. I mean, for those who are interested, you want to maybe, if you have picked resources from someone, or you've taken inspiration from someone, or you saw something online or from a conference, you want to tag these people. You want to give them the credit that this was inspired by so and so. In that way, people will not come and say that you stole my idea, which we are hearing currently, the fashion show thing, I don't know, award night thing, right? You don't want to get that issue. You want to create a brand that is credible. You want to create a brand that people can trust. You don't want to be a thief, right? So you have to be very careful about stuff like that. And in terms of building confidence, there is this statement from a creator that I heard like last week, that it takes a very long time for one to become an overnight success, which means that it takes a very long period of time for you to break or for you to become a big thing. It might be very difficult in our space currently as a climate action advocate or a speaker or someone who is passionate about the environment to actually be known, or for people to see you, or people to like want to watch your content, right? But if you're doing the content right, if you are putting yourself out there in the right way, and you're doing it consistently, your confidence is going to get better. So do not put a lot of pressure on yourself that I have to, when I make this video, I have to get so and so likes and stuff like that. No, you rather bring your confidence down. So you start small, you start from what you have, you start from where you can start, right? So separate your voice also from a performance. Your perspective is shaped by what you're actually doing and seeing. So if you post what you are seeing, if you post what you are doing, you won't feel like you are performing, right? It becomes like you are speaking out of experience. You don't want to be a performer, you want to be a doer, right? You want to show people that this is what you are doing. And then lastly is that get feedback from friends, get feedback from people. That's what that's why I started making content, but I stopped because I wasn't consistent with it, right? But what made me get better when I was creating content is that I was always asking people for feedback. How did I sound in this video? How was I looking? I mean, some people will try to talk you down, but like if you know what you really want, you go to the right people for the right feedback, and then you're able to put all of this into the content you're making. You continue, remain consistent, and then one day you become an overnight success, but people didn't know that you've done a lot of work at the background. So these are my answers to the two questions. Thank you very much for those questions. I've learned a lot myself, and I'm quite happy. Bye.
Thank you so much for that, Kelvin. Thank you also, Paul. The answers you gave are really, really insightful. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, our speakers, for making time of your busy schedules to join us on today's session. Just to reiterate that the materials used for today's presentation will be shared in the description of the YouTube stream, together with necessary information accompanying it. It would also be shared in the WhatsApp channel. So if you are not yet a member of the channel, do well to visit our Instagram and LinkedIn and get access to the WhatsApp channel for information in that regard. Let's also be mindful that moving forward, we are going to have an assessment that would influence the dissemination of a certificate. So do well to follow the sessions through, not just the attendance links, but understand so that you can get to receive a certificate at the end. We have an announcement from our partner, from AAGC, in the person of Ambassador Daniel. If you're ready, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Alvin. This is a very wonderful session, and I'm super proud of the fact that we've had a bunch of young people being super conscious about the changes in the world of now and the impact in the world of tomorrow. So just to take us back one step, last week we looked at leadership and climate change, and we know that the future of climate action depends on leaders who understand the complexity, who understand how to navigate the systems, who understand how to build solutions and how to deliver results. And we know that the journey starts here. It starts from having this conversation. We also know that the journey doesn't stop at having conversations. We want these young ones to have the access to self-develop themselves. And before I go into the announcements, we've granted access to those that had applied for the Executive Leadership Development Program under the Talent Incubation Hub. We made that announcement. We know that it's a very unique opportunity for people to equip themselves with what they need, the necessary skills to have some of these conversations. So at the back of last week, what I would do, apart from going through, the application process and going through the self-learning process, I would also want to take a practical action, which is around identifying maybe just one issue, climate issue in my country. Then I try to map the solution, identify the stakeholders, and define where leadership is missing. And I want to encourage everybody to also do the same. Maybe as part of the links that will be sent out, we can collate some of this information, because that would also help us with some of the conversations that we're having with some of the development partners to support you at country level. We just don't want this to be a conversation. We want actions at the back of this program. And today, we know we've spoken well about, climate solutions and the power of communication. Climate solutions do not scale without communication. We know this. And your ability to tell the story, your ability to build trust, your ability to influence stakeholders will determine the level of impact that you get. The most powerful climate leaders, as we know, are not only those who understand the problem, but those who can communicate clearly, position the issues strategically, and mobilize action. So I'm encouraging each and everyone to please remember that your voice is your tool, your clarity is your power, and your structure is your advantage. So at the back of this, we've also this is me going into the announcement. We've also had conversations with developmental partners to support the young ones when it comes to branding and communication. Although this is kind of focused on business branding and communication, the conversation is still ongoing. And once we are able to close out on those conversations, we'll be sharing the access to the learning platform for these, just in case, there's somebody out there that's been able to not just see the problem around climate and climate issues, but also be able to draw up a solution, be able to also see business around this that is commercially viable and problem solving. This will be very, very, very useful, and it may not be within the time frame of this program, within the month, but yes, we want you to be aware that there will be communications that will be shared to all the participants of the Climate Skills for Youth Program 2026, and this will be all through the year. As we're closing out some conversations, as those opportunities are unfolding, we will be bringing this to your attention. As Alvin rightly said, please do well to be part of the social media page across Center for Brighter Earth, for a Brighter Earth Climate Skills for Youth Program, All-Encompassing Global Consults, the Talent Incubation Hub platform, and also the channel for this year's program, the WhatsApp channel for this year's program. Once you're on any of it, I would encourage as much as possible be on most of these platforms, so that would then share communications. Would also send communications via emails as we close out on some of this conversation. Our focus and our determination is to have a world of young leaders that are conscious of what's access and the power they have to influence the world of now as into the world of tomorrow. And on this very note, I want to say congratulations to the Climate Skills for Youth Program participant 2026. We are on the road to success, and there's no holding back. Thank you once again, and let's enjoy the rest of our week. Over to you, Alvin.
Thank you so much for that, Ambassador Daniel. And as he's mentioned, just as our speakers have mentioned, the honors lies on us to make impact and to make good use of the knowledge we've gotten. I believe strongly in action, not just the words, not just communicating, but communicate with the things you also do. Do well to stay engaged on our various social media pages. If you have any concerns, do well to reach us via direct messages, DMs. Our email channels are not active at the moment, so please be mindful of that. And yes, let's keep the conversations, the energy, and the participation going. See you next week for our session. We have an amazing lineup of speakers, and next week's topic is going to focus on climate, entrepreneurship, and innovation. So if you want to know how that happens, how ideation works, feel free to mark your calendars for next week's session. Enjoy the rest of your day.